Good evening, dear students. Welcome to the English Canvas. Today, we are going to have an in depth discussion on some of the most important and thought provoking questions from Philip Larkin's poem, The Whitsun Weddings and Church Going. And if you are new here, make sure to like this video, share it with your classmates and friends, and subscribe to the channel for more such insightful literature discussions and English honors content. So, before we begin, let's talk about something extremely crucial and the importance of answer writing strategies. As literature students, reading and understanding the poem is only half the journey. The real challenge lies in how effectively you can express your ideas within the examination framework. Answer writing is not just about what you know, actually it's about how you present it, right? So to write a good answer, a well structured answer, to get good scores in your examination, you need to follow some of the guidelines. The first guideline is begins with a brief introduction showing the context and relevance. You need to include critical viewpoints or textual references, right? Uh, and you need to explain ideas logically with topic, sentences, and linking words, and ends your answer with a conclusive remark showing your own insight. And always remember, examiners look for clarity, coherence, and maturity of thought. So, even a simple idea can shine when presented with structure and precision. So, now let's begin our discussion on the best 7 questions from Larkin's poem. Each of these questions will help you to explore how Larkin's poetry mirrors mid 20th century English life with its irony, realism, and quiet reflection on faith, relationships, and time, right? So, the first question in this journey is comment on the irony embedded in the title of the poem Church Going by Larkin. So, ये 10 मार्क का क्वेश्चन है, 10 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन है, 2024 में आया था. So, let's begin with the title itself, Church Going. At first glance, it seems to describe a simple routine act, going to church for worship, but as we move deeper into the poem, we realize that Larkin's title is ironical. It carries a double meaning that reveals his complex relationship with religion and faith in modern and secular world. So the first point you need to mention in your answer, which is two meanings of the title. On one level, church going means the act of visiting a church, something traditionally associated with religious devotion. But on another level, which is more symbolic level, it suggests that the institution of the church itself is going or maybe disappearing. So churching going, it means the churches are going to be disappeared. So it is losing its relevance in modern life. So this double sense, going to church versus church going away. So you need to give some attention on this. Going to church going means going to church, and the second meaning is church going away, right? So it creates a central irony of the title. Second point is the speaker's disbelief versus his action. So the speaker claims he is not a believer, yet he keeps visiting churches. This contradiction forms another layer of irony. He finds church worth stopping for, and even he denies any religious faith. So it shows that even in disbelief, in this speaker's disbelief, humans are drawn to sacred spaces for meaning, continuity, and reflection, right? Third point is irony of reverence and irreverence. So when the speaker enters the church, his attitude appears casual. He takes off his cycle clips, he looks around and even tries on Lecter's hat. Yet by the end, his tone becomes serious, respectful, and even reverent. So the irony lies in the shift. A man who begins as a skeptic ends up acknowledging the enduring power of spiritual places. Right? Fourth point is irony as reflection of modern society. So the poem captures the post-war secular England of the 1950s when traditional religious faith was fading. So Philip Larkin uses irony to depict how people have outgrown ritualistic belief but still feel a spiritual emptiness. So, even as the church loses its followers, it remains a symbolic site of human continuity, right? The fifth point is the deeper philosophical irony. So this poem ends with a famous line, a serious house on serious earth it is. So here the speaker admits that the church still holds meaning, not because of religion, but because it represents human seriousness and the search of truth. So irony is that skepticism itself leads to reverence, right? So with these 5 points, you can conclude your answer that the title church going uh, perfectly embodies the poem's tone, which are reflective, ironic, and human. It tells us that while religion may fade, the human need for spiritual anchoring does not. Thus, the title's irony is not just linguistic, it mirrors Larkin's larger vision that is an age of disbelief. The sacred still survive in the act of questioning itself, right? Now we'll go to the second question. What does the phrase power of some sort will go on suggest about the speaker's view on religion? सबसे पहले तो हमें ढूंढना है कि ये जो फ्रेज़ है ये किस क्वेश्चन से है। देखिए, जो ये फ्रेज़ है मतलब क्वेश्चन जो है इसमें ये वर्ड है रिलीजन, तो यहाँ पर काफ़ी ज़्यादा चांसेस हो जाते हैं कि ये जो पोएम है ये चर्च गोइंग ही हो सकती है, क्योंकि जो हमारी दूसरी पोएम थी द विट्सन वेडिंग्स वो मैरिज के ऊपर थी, उसमें रिलीजन की बात नहीं हुई थी। तो अगर किसी को ये भी नहीं पता है ना कि ये लाइन किस पोएम से है, लेकिन अगर आपने पोएम पढ़ा है और थोड़ा आपको याद है, तो रिलीजन वर्ड से ही पता चल जाता है कि ये वाला क्वेश्चन भी चर्च गोइंग के ऊपर बेस्ड है, राइट? So you can begin your answer by describing the the role of religion in modern and rational world. So in church going, Philip Larkin reflects deeply on the role of religion in a modern rational world. The poem moves from casual curiosity to a profound meditation on faith, tradition, and human continuity. So there is a phrase, power of some sort of will go on. This phrase appears near the end of the poem, right? And it beautifully captures Larkin's balanced, non dogmatic view of religion, not as divine truth but as a human need that continues to persist even after belief fades. So, the uh, first point you need to describe which is the context of the line, कि ये line किस context में कहा लिखा गया था. So by this stage in the poem the speaker has explored the emptiness of the church. So this is a place now visited by few, mostly out of habit or history. So, yet the speaker, the poet, realizes that even when the formal worship disappears, or some spiritual power of some sort will still remain, right? So, this is a moment of revelation, right? तो सबसे पहले हम कॉन्टेक्स्ट को डिस्कस करेंगे, राइट? सो दिस अ मोमेंट ऑफ revelation. He acknowledges that faith may be die but meaning endures. Secondly, you need to write about a realistic acceptance, not the romantic faith. So Larkin does not express traditional religious belief. He remains a rational observer. The phrase of some sort, yes, some sort, yeah, of some sort is deliberately vague, showing uncertainty rather than conviction. It suggests that he can't define this power, but he recognizes its psychological and emotional necessity in human life. In other words, the speaker sees religion as a human creation, and that is so true. And this belief that, like, he sees religion as a human creation that continues to comfort, unite, and inspire people even when its doctrines no longer hold authority, right? Third point is the continuity of the sacred. So the word power, again we will discuss this. The power here refers to enduring human impulse to gather, to remember, and to connect with something larger than oneself. For Philip Larkin, this power will not disappear with the church. It will transform, perhaps, into art, culture, or moral consciousness. So, this idea gives the poem a tone of quiet faith in humanity rather than in theology, right? Fourth is we can see a shift in the speaker's attitude. So, this is our fourth point. सो पोएम में भी हमने देखा कि जो स्पीकर है उसका जो टोन है, उसका जो एटीट्यूड है, वो शिफ्ट होता है. शुरू में द स्पीकर इज़ वेरी कैजुअल. इन द बिगनिंग he is very casual, even dismissive. He enters the church after reading. He enters after reading and treats the church like a relic. But by the time he says power ऑफ सम सॉर्ट, तो यहाँ पर इसका टोन थोड़ा सा चेंज हो गया, शिफ्ट हो गया है. सो जब ये कहता है ना कि अगर आपने पोएम पढ़ा है, हमारी पोएम वाले लेक्चर्स को अच्छे से पढ़ा है और पोएम का आपके पास टेक्स्ट है, तो आप इस लाइन को देख सकते हैं, पावर ऑफ सम सॉर्ट विल गो ऑन. सो by the time when he said that power of some sort will go on, his tone changes. He becomes reflective and respectful. So this marks an inner transformation from skepticism to acceptance, showing that even disbelief cannot erase the need for reverence, right? Fifth point is philosophical implications, right? So this line, power of some sort will go on, this line actually embodies humanism. Existential humanism, that the belief that meaning arises not from divine command but from human consciousness. The word power will continue is the moral and emotional structure that religion once provided. So, while churches may decay, their symbolic role in shaping identity and memory will endure. So, by these 5 points, we can conclude our answer that the phrase power of some sort will go on is one of the most profound statements in church going, right? It summarizes Larkin's view, although modern men may no longer believe in God, he still seeks depth, purpose, and continuity. And religion, this term, because we need to write about speaker's view on religion, right? So this term religion is in its institutional form may fade, but the spiritual impulse of the church that created it will continue to go on, quietly sustaining human life, right? आई थिंक ये काफ़ी है एक अच्छा आंसर लिखने के लिए. चलिए नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पढ़ते हैं. How does Larkin use the imagery of decay and nature to convey the church changing role in society, right? So again, this question is about church going. So Philip Larkin's church going is not only about religion, but this time we will not talk about religion. This time we will discuss about time, transience, human loss of faith in the modern age. So one of the most powerful ways Larkin conveys these themes of time, transience, and human loss of faith is through imagery of decay and nature, right? यहाँ decay और nature की बात होगी to convey church's changing role in society. So by describing the church in terms of wear, silence, and natural overgrowth, he symbolizes the gradual decline of religious significance in post-war England, right? So the first point to express our viewpoint on this answer, that is the church as a symbol symbol of decay. So right from the beginning, the church is portrayed as empty, dusty, and neglected. Right? The speaker enters a silent, abandoned building. He enters in a silent and abandoned building, not a place of worship, but almost a museum of faith. So the imagery of dust, echoes, and emptiness evokes spiritual decay. मतलब वो जो बिल्डिंग है उसको वो चर्च भी समझ के नहीं आया, मतलब उस वो आया तो वो चर्च में था, बट उसने कैसे पोर्ट्रे किया चर्च को कि वो खाली पड़ा है, डस्टी है, नेग्लेक्टेड है. और he enters a silent and abandoned place which is not a place of worship but almost a museum of faith. The imagery of dust, echoes, and emptiness evokes spiritual decay. Religion has become a habit of the past, not a living force. So this setting immediately shows that the church, once central to community life, has now faded into irrelevance, right? Second point is nature taking over. So, Larkin certainly allows nature to invade the sacred space, suggesting that as belief dies, life continues in another form. He imagines future visitors, perhaps the dubious women or people coming to pick simples for a cancer. So such scenes blend superstitions with nature, indicating that the church's power will dissolve into the ordinary rhythms of the earth. So the phrase in the poem, you can see the line which is about grass, weedy pavement, brambles, buttress, sky. It shows that nature, indifferent yet eternal, will reclaim the place of worship. So this is both melancholic and reassuring because faith dies but the world goes on, right? Third point is imagery of time and erosion. So the church is filled with reminders of the past, matting, seats and stone, lectern and plates. These objects, once part of ritual, now stand as a symbol of erosion. Larkin's attention to these materials detail gives the reader of a vivid sense of cultural decay where once vibrant belief has turned into historical memory. The church becomes a ruin in slow motion, surviving only structure as a structure, not as a spiritual center, right? The fourth point is juxtaposition of decay and continuity, right? So yet Larkin does not end in complete despair. The decay of the building contrasts with the persistence of human curiosity and reverence. The very act of the speaker visiting the church despite his belief symbolizes that something enduring remains. The imagery of nature overtaking the church thus mirrors both loss and renewal. Just as nature reclaims stone, humanity and reclaims meaning even after religion fades. So there is a broader message. Yes. So Larkin's imagery reflects the post-war secularization of England, a society where religion is dying but moral and emotional needs continue. The overgrown churchyard and the weathered stone symbolize a civilization changing with time, where sacred spaces lose their purpose but retain their dignity. So nature becomes the new continuity, which are eternal, neutral, and real, unlike the fragile institution of organized faith. So, by concluding these 5 points, you can conclude your answer through the imagery of decay and nature. um, Larkin paints a subtle picture of transformation rather than destruction. The church may crumble, but life in its natural and human forms continues. So, in this way, decay in church going becomes decay in church going becomes not just a sign of death but a metaphor for spiritual evolution, where faith leaves the building but remains within human consciousness, right? Now we'll discuss the question number 4. Discuss the role of the narrator in both Whitsun weddings and church going. How does Larkin's use of a detached observer or outsider impact the reader's understanding of the theme? This is a very good and important question, क्योंकि यहाँ पर आपके सिलेबस की दोनों ही पोएम्स का डिस्कशन होने वाला है और आपको दोनों ही पोएम्स में नरेटर का जो रोल है उसको आपको डिस्कस करना है और ये बताना है कि हाउ डज लार्किन्स यूज ऑफ अ डिटैच ऑब्जर्वर और आउटसाइडर impact the reader's understanding of the themes, right? So सबसे पहले हम इसको डिस्कस करेंगे, detached observer in the Whitsun wedding. So detached observer in the Whitsun weddings. In Whitsun weddings, the speaker travels by train, noticing couple getting married. He does not interfere, but he observes quietly. Like all afternoon through the glasses, I watch the houses. आप जब भी पोयम वाला जब सेक्शन का हम आंसर राइटिंग स्ट्रैटेजीज पढ़ रहे होते हैं ना, तो मेरी एक सजेशन है आपको कि आप उस पर्टिकुलर पोएम का टेक्स्ट अपनी आंखों के सामने रखिए, चाहे आप उसे एक अलग विंडो में खोल के रखिए, और अगर जैसे अभी आपके फ़ोन में या आपके लैपटॉप में अगर ये वीडियो चल रहा है तो दोनों चीज़ें या तो आप साइड बाय साइड रखिए या आप उसका हार्ड कॉपी निकलवा लीजिए जो कि पढ़ने में आपको अच्छा रहेगा। तो मतलब कैसे भी आप करिए, जैसा आपको ठीक लगे आप वैसा करिए, लेकिन आपकी आंखों के सामने वो पोएम का भी टेक्स्ट होना चाहिए जिसको हम पढ़ रहे हैं या जिसको हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं। जब मैंने दोनों पोएम्स का सेपरेटली डिस्कशन वाला क्लास बनाया था तो पूरा टेक्स्ट स्क्रीन पर था, बट अभी हम जब ये आंसर राइटिंग को हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, क्वेश्चंस को, प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस को हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, तो यहाँ अभी स्क्रीन पर हमारे पास पोएम नहीं है, तो इसलिए मैं जब लाइंस को बोलती हूँ तो शायद आप उसको आप उससे कनेक्ट नहीं हो पाए। तो उसका एक अच्छा तरीका है कि आप टेक्स्ट को, जो ओरिजिनल टेक्स्ट है, जो पोएम है, आप उसको अपनी अपनी स्क्रीन पर कहीं साइड में फ्लोटिंग विंडो में रखें, या फिर अपनी किसी, अगर आपके पास उसका प्रिंट आउट हो या आपके पास हार्ड कॉपी हो, कोई बुक हो आपके पास जिसमें वो पोएम हो, तो बहुत अच्छा है। सो बिल्कुल शुरू में लाइन है किसमें पोएम में, ऑल आफ्टरनून थ्रू द ग्लास आई वॉच द हाउसेस। सो it means he does not interfere but he observes quietly. This detachment gives a poem a neutral and reflective tone, क्योंकि वो नरेटर जो है इसका यही रोल है कि वो एक डिटैच्ड ऑब्जर्वर है। उसका इन जो ये जैसे वेडिंग हुई है तो जो न्यूली वेडिड कपल है वो उनमें से कोई नहीं है, ना वो उनके शायद रिलेटिव है, ना उसका कोई कनेक्शन है, तो वो इंटरफेयर नहीं कर रहा है, बल्कि वो एक न्यूट्रल नरेटर है यहाँ पर। सो इट अलाउज, तो इसी वजह से इसको, पोयम को वो एक न्यूट्रल और रिफ्लेक्टिव टोन दे पाते हैं फिलिप लार्किन। सो इट अलाउज the reader to see both joy and monotony, right? The excitement of the weddings contrasted with the ऑर्डनरी एंड एवरीडे लाइफ ऑफ द कंट्री साइड। तो एक तरफ आपको फेस्टिविटी देखने को मिलेगी, एक्साइटमेंट देखने को मिलेगी वेडिंग की, और दूसरी तरफ आपको ऑर्डनरी और एवरीडे लाइफ ऑफ द कंट्री साइड देखने को मिलेगी, क्योंकि जो ऑब्जर्वर है, जो नरेटर है, वो काफ़ी डिटैच्ड है और वो काफ़ी आउटसाइडर है। तो रीडर की अंडरस्टैंडिंग पर इस चीज़ का ये इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है कि न्यूट्रल आपका अंडरस्टैंडिंग बनेगी। इट अलाउज द रीडर टू सी बोथ जॉय एंड मोनोटनी। तो जॉय और मोनोटनी दोनों को आप एक साथ इंजॉय कर सकते हैं, मतलब फील कर सकते हैं, आप देख सकते हैं। एंड द ऑब्जर्वर्स डिस्टेंस ऑल्सो हाईलाइट्स सोशल कमेंट्री, क्योंकि जो ऑब्जर्वर है, जो नरेटर है, वो उनसे अटैच नहीं है किसी तरह से, तो वो एक तरह का सोशल कमेंट्री भी हाईलाइट कर सकते हैं ऑन लव, ऑन कमिटमेंट एंड द कंटिन्यूटी ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ, राइट। अब ये डिटैच ऑब्जर्वर तो हो गए द वेडिंग्स के, द विट्सन वेडिंग्स के। अब हम दूसरी पोएम में अगर बात करें, मतलब चर्च गोइंग में, so similarly church going, the speaker enters a church casually almost without purpose, क्योंकि वो चर्च में जा रहे हैं लेकिन उनका कोई रिलीजियस रीज़न नहीं है जाने का, तो वो वहाँ भी एक डिटैच्ड ऑब्जर्वर है, एक आउटसाइडर है, क्योंकि वो भगवान में विश्वास करके नहीं जा रहे हैं, बस वो वहाँ पर साइलेंस है इसलिए वो जा रहे हैं। सो he enters the church casually, almost without purpose. So he examines the building. देखिए, अगर कोई रिलीजन में उसका फेथ है, अगर वो भगवान को मानता है, तो उसे हर चीज़ अच्छी दिखेगी, वो हर चीज़ में पॉजिटिविटी देखेगा। लेकिन अगर कोई भगवान में नहीं मानता या उनके वर्शिप करने के अगेंस्ट है, तो उसे हर चीज़ में बहुत ही नेगेटिविटी दिखेगी, वो हर चीज़ के अगेंस्ट रहेगा। लेकिन यहाँ पर जो नरेटर है, जो पोएट है, वो काफ़ी न्यूट्रल है, तो वो बहुत ही नॉर्मल, बहुत ही न्यूट्रल वे में बिल्डिंग को एग्ज़ामिन करते हैं, वहाँ जो ऑब्जेक्ट्स थे उनको एग्ज़ामिन करते हैं, वहाँ आने वाले विजिटर्स को एग्ज़ामिन करते हैं विद ऑल क्यूरियोसिटी एंड माइल्ड इरेवरेंस। एंड दिस डिटैचमेंट इज़ वेरी क्रिटिकल। Larkin can explore themes of faith, secularization, and cultural change without preaching, right? So the speaker is both an outsider and a mirror. So it reflects society's ambivalence toward religion. अब इस चीज़ का रीडर्स पर क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है, ये हम डिस्कस करेंगे, क्योंकि यहाँ पर ये भी लिखा है ना, इम्पैक्ट ऑफ रीडर्स अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द थीम्स, तो ये भी हमें देखना है। सो द डिटैच्ड नरेटर अलाउज रीडर्स टू फॉर्म देयर ओन इंटरप्रिटेशन, क्योंकि वो खुद बहुत डिटैच्ड है, तो वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा स्पेस देता है रीडर्स को, हमको, क्योंकि हम रीडर्स हैं, कि हम अपने खुद की इंटरप्रिटेशंस वहाँ पर फॉर्म कर सकते हैं। इंस्टेड ऑफ टेलिंग अस व्हाट टू थिंक, Larkin shows actions, sides, and reflections, letting the subtle irony and depth emerge naturally, right? It creates a meditative and observational tone which engaged readers intellectually and emotionally, right? The third point is narrative advantages. So objectively देखें तो narrator can describe reality without bias, right? And the irony and subtle humor is there. Being slightly removed allows for witty and understated commentary. And there's a emotional resonance as well. The observer notices human hope, doubt, and continuity, making themes like marriage, faith, and time universally relatable, right? अगर हम इन दोनों पोएम्स को कंपेयर करते हैं, सपोज, तो देखिए एक टेबल में बनाकर आपको इस ये वाला पॉइंट समझा सकती हूँ, जो कि फोर्थ पॉइंट है, जिसमें हम दोनों पोएम्स का कंपैरिजन करेंगे। द विट्सन वेडिंग एंड चर्च गोइंग। सो अगर हम यहाँ पे रोल ऑफ नरेटर की बात करें, रोल अगर यहाँ पे रोल ऑफ नरेटर की बात करें, सो तो विट्सन वेडिंग में जो नरेटर है वो ट्रेवल ऑब्जर्वर है ऑफ सोशल रिचुअल, राइट। और यहाँ पर वो विजिटर है जो कि ऑब्ज़र्व कर रहा है। यहाँ पर ये ट्रैवल ऑब्जर्वर है, यहाँ पर ये विजिटर ऑब्जर्वर है। रोल ऑफ नरेटर मैं आपको बता रही हूँ क्योंकि वो यहाँ पर ऑब्जर्व कर रहा है अबैंडन्ड एंड यूज चर्चेस को, और यहाँ पे वो वेडिंग रिचुअल्स को ऑब्जर्व कर रहा है, राइट। अगर हम टोन की बात करें तो यहाँ पे जो टोन है वो काफ़ी रिफ्लेक्टिव है एंड लाइटली आइकॉनिक है। और अगर हम चर्च गोइंग की बात करें तो यहाँ पे जो टोन है वो क्यूरियस है, लॉजिक है, आयरॉनिक है एंड ग्रेजुअली रेवरेंट है, राइट। अगर हम फंक्शन की बात करें दोनों पोएम्स की, तो ये हाईलाइट करता है ह्यूमन सोशल कस्टम्स एंड कॉन्टिन्यूटी ऑफ लाइफ को। सो ये हाईलाइट करता है ह्यूमन सोशल कस्टम्स को, और चर्च गोइंग का काम है कि वो एक्सप्लोर करता है रिलीजन, स्पिरिचुअलिटी और सेक्युलरिज्म को, राइट। नाउ द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज एंड द लास्ट पॉइंट इज, सो रीडर्स एक्सपीरियंस ये है कि ये जो जो ये पोएम है द विट्सन वेडिंग, ये इनवाइट करती है एम्पैथी और कंटेम्पलेशन, और चर्च को इनकरेज करती है क्रिटिकल रिफ्लेक्शन ऑन फेथ। तो ये जो टेबल मैंने यहाँ बनाकर समझाया है ये काफ़ी इम्पॉर्टेंट है, राइट। सो बाय दीज ऑल दिस पॉइंट्स यू कैन कंक्लूड योर आंसर। आप चाहे तो इसका स्क्रीनशॉट भी ले सकते हैं क्योंकि ये बहुत छोटा लिखा है, मैं इसको थोड़ा जूम कर रही हूँ। आप चाहे तो इसका स्क्रीनशॉट ले सकते हैं। So by using these points, you can conclude your answer, that is Larkin's use of detached observer allows him to portray ordinary human experiences, weddings, church visits in a way that is simultaneously ironic, reflective, and deeply meaningful. So, by being an outsider, the narrator guides the reader gently, right? And and allowing them to see the contrast between ritual and reality, faith and doubt, human hope and cultural change. So, this is all about question 4. Now, we'll go to question 5. Describe the initial sensations and experiences of the narrator at the beginning of the poem, The Whitsun Wedding. सो पहले हमने रोल ऑफ नरेटर की बात की थी पहले वाले क्वेश्चन में कि वो एज अ डिटैच ऑब्जर्वर कैसे काम करता है, उसका क्या इम्पैक्ट है, द रोल ऑफ नरेटर। अब हम यहाँ बात करेंगे द विट्सन वेडिंग्स पोएम को लेकर, जिसमें हम बात करेंगे एक्सपीरियंस, इनिशियल सेंसेशंस एंड एक्सपीरियंसेस ऑफ द नरेटर इन द बिगनिंग ऑफ द पोएम। सो यू कैन बिगिन योर आंसर बाय राइटिंग Philip Larkin begins the Whitsun Weddings with a vivid observational sense, right? Um, that's observational scene that sets the tone for the entire poem. And the opening line introduce us to the narrator's immediate surroundings and the mood, allowing readers to experience both the physical journey and the emotional anticipation. The first point to support this answer, that is sensory experience. The sensory experience, so the narrator starts his journey from Hull by train, and the first impressions are captured by the keen attention to detail. He notices the house, gardens, and roads of countryside. The imagery is visual and tactile, like the sun and the fields and the distance create a sense of movement and observation. आपको पोएम में एक लाइन दिख जाएगी, ऑल आफ्टरनून थ्रू द ग्लासेस आई वॉच द हाउसेज हॉर्सेज एंड द फील्ड्स। तो ये इस लाइन की बात मैं कर रही हूँ, वेयर द इमेजरी इज विजुअल एंड टेक्टाइल। He is talking about the narrator is talking about the sun, the fields, and the distance creates a sense of movement and observation. The second point is emotional tone. So at first the narrator's mood is neutral but alert. He is a detached observer, noticing minute details or without overt emotion. There's a sense of anticipation, but he there's a sense of anticipation. He expects an ordinary journey but begins noticing unexpected social rituals along the way. So this prepares the readers for the gradual unfolding of weddings and human interaction, right? Now the third point is juxtaposition of ordinary and extraordinary. So Larkin's narrator is sensitive to ordinary details, like ordinary details are like houses, stations, signs, and fields. Yet he begins to sense the extraordinary in the ordinary. तो ordinary चीज़ों में भी वो extraordinary sense कर लेता है. The subtle patterns of human life, such as the newlyweds traveling to London. So ability to small notice this ability to notice small, often overlooked details of is a hallmark of Larkin's observational style, right? सो यहाँ पे लिटरेरी डिवाइसेस भी है, अगर आप उसको भी लिखते हो, क्योंकि यहाँ पे इनिशियल सेंसेशंस की बात हो रही है, तो वो भी ठीक है. लिटरेरी डिवाइसेस बेसिकली क्या है कि जैसे इमेजरी है, यहाँ पर इमेजरी कैसे है, विविड विजुअल एंड सेंसरी डिटेल है लैंडस्केप का. एलिट्रेशन है, एलिट्रेशन होता है कि एक सिंगल लेटर जो होता है किसी वर्ड का वो रिपीट होता रहता है दूसरे वर्ड्स में भी. जैसे यहाँ पे फील्ड्स ऑफ रोज है तो एफ वहाँ पर रिपीट हो रहा है, दैट एम्फसाइज रिदम एंड ऑब्जर्वेशन. जो टोन है यहाँ पर काफ़ी काम है, डिटैच्ड है, रिफ्लेक्टिव एंड दिस टोन allows readers to entertain the narrator's perspective gradually, right? Fifth point is significance for the poem. So the initial sensations establish the journey motive, which are both literal because it was a train travel, and metaphorical because the life and human relationships is presenting there. The narrator's observational stance primes the reader to notice social rituals, irony, and the human continuity, which become central themes. It demonstrates Larkin's skills in turning everyday experience into profound reflections. So, with these 5 points, you can conclude your answer. You can write at the beginning of the Whitsun wedding the narrator's initial sensation and experiences आर ऑब्जर्वेशनल. तो जो शुरुआत में पोएम की नरेटर का जो सेंसेशंस था और जो एक्सपीरियंसेस था, दैट आर ऑब्जर्वेशनल, रिफ्लेक्टिव एंड केयरफुली अट्यून टू डिटेल, राइट? So this establishes a meditative tone for the poem, blending ordinary travel with insight into social life, which Larkin develops as the journey progresses, right? चलिए, काफ़ी अच्छा क्वेश्चन था. अब हम क्वेश्चन नंबर 6 पर पढ़ेंगे. Analyze the significance of the metaphor arrow shower in the final stanza of the Whitsun Weddings. So this question is about the final stanza of the poem that contains one of Larkin's most striking images of arrow shower. Arrow shower. So this metaphor captures the sudden, collective, and transformative impact of marriage on the lives of the newlyweds, right? It is both visual and symbolic, allowing readers to reflect on the poem's deeper exploration of love, social ritual and the human continuity. The first point to support the answer for the question is visual and immediate impact. So the term shower evokes a swift descending and spreading movement similar to arrow falling simultaneously, right? Larkins uses this imagery to describe the bride and groom, the newly wedded pair, leaving the station in groups, moving towards their new lives. It creates a sense of momentum and energy, showing the collective yet individual significance of each marriage, right? Second point is symbolism of life's direction. So arrow, arrows suggest direction, purpose, and movement. So the marriage propels individual into a new path in life, and this metaphor highlights. This is the metaphor, So it highlights the moment of transition from single life to married life, making a definitive change in personal identity. Each arrow shower की बात हो रही है ना यहाँ पर, but each arrow represents a couple's journey, but the shower effects reminds the shower effect reminds us that these transformations are part of a larger social pattern, right? अब देखिए क्वेश्चन में मेटाफर की भी बात है, तो हमें इसको भी डिस्कस करना होगा. Metaphor and the human continuity. So the poet emphasizes that the human life moves forward in cycles, just as arrows flies from the bow to their targets. Life events like marriage continue the human story, linking generations and communities. This adds social and philosophical depth. So showing the personal milestone are both individual and collective, right? Fourth point is emotional resonance. So this metaphor conveys both excitement and inevitability. There's a playfulness and rhythm in the image, reflecting Larkin's typical blend of realism and poetic elegance. Readers feel the shared joy of the occasion, yet the shower, this term, also hints at life structured momentum, and where each event is a step in the broader human journey. You can also write about the literary devices here. Like the first one is metaphor, which is erasure, which is in the question as well. It compares the couples, the movement of sudden, rapid, and directed rain of arrows. There is a visual imagery. जब भी आप पोएम को पढ़ेंगे तो एक इमेज सामने आ जाती है ना. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड विजुअल इमेजरी. रीडर्स कैन पिक्चर द साइमल्टेनियस डिपार्चर एंड स्विफ्ट मोशन. जो यहाँ पे सिम्बोलिज्म है एरोज का, एरो डिफाइंस डायरेक्शन, पर्पस, सोशल कंटिन्यूटी, एंड शावर इट represents simplicity. This shower represents simplicity, multiplicity and collective rhythm of life. So by concluding these points, you can conclude your answer. The metaphor arrow shower is one of the most effective ways Larkin blends observation, social commentary, and poetic reflection. It captures the journey, direction, and continuity, right? So continuity of what? Continuity of human life while celebrating the ordinary yet profounded ritual of marriage. So through this single image, Larkin transforms a simple train journey into a poetic meditation on time. So society, it's a it's a simple train journey into a poetic meditation on time, society, and human experiences, right? Now we'll go to the last question for this class is, although मेरे पास बहुत सारे questions थे but सबको यहाँ पर discuss करना थोड़ा सा टफ हो जाता है, इम्पॉसिबल होता है, तो आई हैव चोजन द बेस्ट 7 questions फ्रॉम ऑल दीज प्रीवियस ईयर questions. अगर आपको फिर भी लगता है कि कोई पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन यहाँ इस क्लास में मुझे डिस्कस करना चाहिए था जो मैंने नहीं किया, सो कमेंट सेक्शन हमेशा आपके लिए अवेलेबल है. यू कैन राइट देयर क्वेश्चन on the comment section. I really try my best to give you a satisfied answer or the key points which will help you to write a very good and expressive answer that will definitely help you to get good scores in your examination. So if you have any other question which is you think that this is important, we need to discuss that, so comment section is for you. You can write that question there only. think okay, so अब सेवेंथ क्वेश्चन पढ़ते हैं जो कि इस क्लास का आखिरी क्वेश्चन है. Yes. Comment on the ambiguity of the title church going in relation to changing relationship between humans and religion in the early 20th century. This is very important question. So Philip Larkin's poem Church Going reflects on the gradual secularization of society in post-war England, right? The title itself is deliberately ambiguous, capturing both the act of visiting a church or declining of the church influence in the modern era. देखिए एम्बिगस तो है. एम्बिगस क्या होता है? जिसका कोई क्लियर मीनिंग ना हो या इनकम्प्लीट हो, मतलब कंप्लीट मीनिंग नहीं है, कोई क्लियर मीनिंग नहीं है. तो टाइटल खुद में काफ़ी एम्बिगियस है. इसके दो मतलब है कि या तो आप चर्च जा रहे हैं या चर्च ही जा रहे हैं. मतलब church going means you are going to church or maybe the church is going away. मतलब या तो हम चर्च जा रहे हैं या फिर चर्च ही हमेशा के लिए हमसे दूर जा रहे हैं. So there is a confusion in the that is why I said the title itself is a deliberately ambiguous, capturing both the act of visiting a church and decline of church influence in modern era. This ambiguity allows the poem to explore human curiosity, faith, cultural continuity without being overtly religious or critical. So the first point to support this answer is लिटरल वर्सेस फिगरेटिव मीनिंग. सो लिटरल मीनिंग क्या है? लिटरल मीनिंग ये है कि चर्च गोइंग सिंपली रेफर्स टू फिजिकल एंटरिंग अ चर्च, राइट? सो इट्स एन एवरीडे एक्ट that the speaker performs casually, right? But the figurative meaning is the phrases also suggest that the institution of the church is going or maybe fading away. It highlights the decline of former religion in society. So this dual meaning creates a layer of ambiguity, inviting readers to reflect on both personal actions and cultural change, right? Second point is ambiguity reflects societal change. So in early 20th century England, religion was losing its central place in daily life, right? Especially after the world wars. वर्ल्ड वॉर्स के बाद तो काफ़ी ज़्यादा रिलीजन जो है उसका सेंट्रल प्लेस ना खो गया था डेली लाइफ में. एक होता है ना कि आप युद्ध के बाद हैं, वॉर के बाद हैं, आपका काफ़ी आपके देश का, आपके लोगों को काफ़ी ज़्यादा लॉस हुआ है. वो लॉस सिर्फ मटेरियल वाइज नहीं है, वो लॉस पीस का है, इंटेलेक्चुअली लॉस है, फिज़िकल लॉस तो है ही, मतलब वो लॉस इमोशनल भी है, इमोशनल लॉस है, इंटेलेक्चुअल लॉस है. उसमें कई सारी चीज़ें आप खो देते हैं. तो जब भी किसी देश का वॉर होता है, चाहे वो जीते या हारे, लेकिन लॉस तो होता ही है. सो in that time period, religion was losing its central place in daily life, especially in the time of the post-war conditions. So the title, the church going title, this one mirrors this transitional period while people may still visit churches out of the habit and curiosity. तो मतलब ये ट्रांजिशनल पीरियड था जिसमें चर्च, मतलब रिलीजन की इतनी इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं थी, बट स्टिल लोग चर्च जाते थे क्योंकि उनकी हैबिट थी, उन्हें क्यूरियोसिटी थी, बट फेथ नहीं था. फेथ इज़ नो लॉन्गर ऑटोमेटिक एंड एब्सोल्यूट. सो पोएट्स एम्बिगिटी allows the poem to capture both continuity and uncertainty, which shows that the humans still seek meaning even as institutional religion declines, right? The third point is connection to the speaker's attitude. So the speaker himself is curious and skeptical. That is why he entered in the church, because he was curious to go there. So he enters the church without devotion. He had no faith in religion, but he enters the church. Why? Because he enters the church without devotion, but gradually reflects on its enduring social and spiritual significance. The ambiguity in the title mirrors this tension, a space between ritual and irreverence, belief and doubt. The fourth point is literary techniques and reinforcing ambiguity. So irony is there. You can add this term irony. The casual act of visiting a church contrasts with the serious cultural reflection it inspires. There is symbolism as well. The church represents both religion and human continuity rather than dogmatic belief. And the tone, Larkin balances humor, curiosity, and seriousness, which enhances the open-ended interpretation of the title. Right. Fifth point is importance of the ambiguous title. So it engages readers by inviting multiple interpretations. It highlights the changing relationships between human and religion. Faith may fade, but the need for reflection and sacred spaces continues. This point bridges the personal and societal, showing how cultural rituals survive even when belief diminishes. So with these 5 points, you can conclude your answer, right? uh, you can write: the ambiguity of church going is central to Larkin's exploration of religion and secularization. It encapsulates the complex, evolving relationship between human and spiritual institutions in the early 20th century. On one hand, faith and rituals are declining, but on the other, human curiosity, reverence, and need for the meaning persist. Through this clever ambiguity, um, Larkin creates a poem that is timeless, reflective, and philosophically rich, offering a space for contemplation, critical thought. So यहाँ पर ये क्लास का आखिरी क्वेश्चन ख़त्म होता है. ये क्लास बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट थी क्योंकि हमें सिर्फ टेक्स्ट को पढ़ना नहीं होता है, मतलब पढ़ना तो है ही, उसको समझना भी ज़रूरी है, लेकिन कि इस आपका जो मेन फोकस है अभी फ़िलहाल के लिए वो है कि आप एग्ज़ाम में किस तरह से अच्छे आंसर्स लिखकर अच्छे से मार्क्स स्कोर कर पाए. तो उसके लिए सबसे पहला स्टेप है कि आप पोएट के बारे में अच्छे से पढ़िए. सेकेंडली, आप उस टेक्स्ट को जो भी मेंशन है, चाहे वो मतलब अगर कोई ऑथर है और उसका नॉवल है या कोई स्टोरी है, अब ये पोएट है तो इनकी पोएम्स हैं, आप उनका डीप मीनिंग समझिए और फिर उसके बाद उन्हें उनके क्वेश्चंस के आंसर्स किस तरह से लिखने हैं, ताकि जो एग्ज़ामिनर है उसको ऐसा हमें फ़ील कराना है कि हम बहुत सारा पढ़ के आए हैं, हमें बहुत सारी नॉलेज है, हमने पोएम्स को या किसी भी टेक्स्ट को पर्टिकुलर जो भी है उसको हमने डीपली पढ़ा है, और सिर्फ पढ़ा ही नहीं है, हमने उसको समझा है और उसको डेप्थ में समझा है. सो this is all about for today's class, and that brings us to the end of today's discussion on Philip Larkin's The Whitsun Weddings and Church Going. आज फिलिप लार्किन की क्लास यहाँ ख़त्म होती है. नेक्स्ट क्लास में हम कुछ नया पढ़ेंगे. सो आई होप दिस लेक्चर हेल्प you not only understand the themes, imagery and literal techniques, but also gave you insight into how to structure your answers in exams, which can be clear, logical and reflective. And always remember, literature is not just about reading poems, it's about observing, questioning, and connecting with the human experiences they portray. So, Philip Larkin's poems teach us to see the extraordinary in ordinary life, to reflect on time, faith, and social continuity, and to engage critically with the world around us. And at last, I must say, if you found this lecture useful, then don't forget to like this video, share it with your classmates, your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more literature lectures, exam tips, and interactive discussions. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next lecture for more insights into English poetry and critical analysis. Thank you.